Welcome to Project Fast Fish here on Mike's Motorworks, and let's get straight to it. So much work has been done on Project Fast Fish thus far. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link for one of the videos that kind of summarize what's been done up to the point of January of this current year. That's 2023 for those who are watching many years into the future, right? However, we went ahead and since that episode have replaced the underseat pan, the rear underseat pan specifically, the inner and outer wheel wells, and the trunk panel cross brace. It is now time to tackle the roof structure. Let me show you the current condition of the roof structure. Up here we have where I had put the A-pillars in, and I'll leave a link for the episode in that corner up there. But the A-pillars have already been replaced, and I was waiting to finish this area up here. And this guy here definitely needs to be replaced. Now we're going to look at all the inner panels, or the outer panels, and then I'm going to show you the inners here. All right, so we have this guy here, and this still has the rain gutter and such on there, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But this is needing to be completely replaced, and the part runs from about here forward. Then we need to replace this part, right? This part runs from here all the way down to around here-ish, and there's so much rot taken away, it's kind of tough to see where that part actually ends, but we can estimate right around this area, righty? And then of course there's another piece that comes down to here into this C-pillar cap, and this needs to be replaced here. Additionally, I've decided to go ahead and replace this piece as well, which and the reason for that is you can see that we got a couple of holes and such, and I'm really concerned about the structural integrity of this piece here, so I decided to go ahead and replace it. But back here, we're looking pretty awesome, so I'm happy with the structure here. So that means everything from this panel, that panel, this piece, and this piece needs to go. Additionally, we could get away with this guy here, but I'm going to go ahead and replace it because it is kind of structurally weak. And that's the part that holds the dome light. Now, here's the kicker, alrighty? This panel, and I'm going to be looking up at the camera here, so I apologize for the weird angle. So here we go. Let's do it like this. Let's do the whole selfie thing here. Alrighty, so this panel, the inside panel, they do not make at AMD, nor do they make at Dynacorn, although I think if you buy their whole car, it comes with it, right? There's actually two different pieces here. There's this piece here, which is, this is tough to do. Here we go. This piece here, which is the cap, okay? And the brace, the corner brace. And then there's a separate inner piece here, okay? So that guy, although I probably would replace it in any other project, alrighty, it looks like I'm not going to be able to do that on this particular project. So I'm going to have to go through, scale it both sides, and then go ahead and fix any weak areas that I come across with using simple patches. On this guy, it's pretty good. On the other guy, it's pretty rough, right? And then here, you can see where that panel meets up, okay, about here-ish, with that other panel we talked about replacing up in this area, okay? Let me go ahead and show you the panels themselves. Now, in front of me here on my, service cart is a couple of different pieces from AMD and one piece from Dynacorn. I'm going to go through and list the parts with you, and I'm also going to go ahead and leave a description below. So if you open up the video, you know, and if you're watching full screen, get it out at full screen, click the description where it says here or more, and then you'll see the parts list. Now, from AMD, I do not get a kickback. I am not sponsored by them, and they are not part of my affiliate marketing. However, the Amazon link that I'm going to leave for you for the parts that I use, I do get a little bit of kickback from that. So make sure that if you see something you like and you need to buy it from Amazon if you so choose. That way I could use that money that I earn to put back into this project and future projects. All right, so working from front to back, as you just saw on that video here, right here we have the outer door bow or brace, right? So this will go on effectively, well, you saw they're kind of like this, right? This kind of goes here. Now there is no roof rail here. We're going to get that roof rail and that drip rail installed when we put the roof on, but this comes without it, but this should clear up the area from that A-pillar post on back, right? Then we get to this piece. This is the out brace. Now this is all the left-hand side. I'm doing both the left-hand and the right-hand side of the car, right? So this is the left-hand side, the outer brace. And then of course, you have from the C-pillar to the outer brace, which is right here. All right, again, all this is AMD metal. Then you actually have the C-pillar bow brace, which literally is this piece right here to this guy, okay? And then, of course, we have that inner bow brace where I talked about with the dome light right here. Now, this is a Dynacorn piece because I got this with the set. I had was looking for, well, before I did the front, all right, I actually bought a multi-kit piece for the E-body, okay? And that piece came with the, or that set, or that kit, came with the front bow brace, the center brace, which is right here, and the rear bow brace for, well, the Challengers. Now, believe it or not, just because it's an E-body doesn't mean it's going to fit. Effectively, the front bow brace is the same on a Barracuda and a Challenger, excuse me, Barracuda and a Challenger. The middle brace, the dome light, where that goes, the same thing, but there is a difference between the rear bow brace, okay? And I'm gonna show you that here in just a minute. So I got the piece right here, okay? This is from AMD, it comes in 2 parts. Now, if you're working on a Challenger, then note that your piece, when you buy that kit like I got, okay, will come already spot welded in and assembled for you. So all you gotta do is just do the final welding here on the end. Really, really cool. And of course, you have the front inner sail panel, which is that piece I was talking about earlier. All righty, real quick, I'm gonna put this guy right here and I'm gonna show you the, oopsie, that's gonna fall off. And I'm gonna show you the difference between the Barracuda and Challenger rear bow brace. For those just watching this particular segment, we have 2 different pieces here. Yes, one is a Dynacorn piece, one is an AMD piece. Both of these are the rear roof bow brace, or that top bow brace that goes between the 2 rear sail panels, okay? This is from Dynacorn. It happens to come already spot welded in. This one is from AMD. This one comes in 2 pieces. Kind of cool, right? However, there is a difference between these 2. While these are both designed for the E-body, one is designed for the Challenger, one is designed for the Barracuda, okay? So this piece right here is for the Challenger. Note here how this piece right here is more curved in alignment, all right? There's more curvature here, okay? This piece here is flatter. Now, if you don't believe me and you can't see it on film, let me just rest one piece on top of the other, okay? There we go. You can clearly see here there is a difference, all right? If I pull that off, you can clearly see one is flat, one has more of a radius here, okay? Because the Challenger uses more of the radius. So when you're ordering your pieces, keep that in mind. Now, when I ordered my piece, this piece came with a set. It was a kit from Dynacorn. I got the front bow brace, which works on a Barracuda. I got the middle bow brace, which works on a Barracuda, but the rear one does not. So there you go, quick little information for you. Let's get back to business. Now, one of the most important things you could do for this process is measure, measure, measure. And I have several different points in which I measured. This bar right here has already been welded into place to ensure that the lower sail panel structure stays in place. That's a good thing. We don't want that thing to move, right? However, I went ahead and added some additional measurements just in case something, got a little awry. Example, measured from here to there and measured out at 32.5 inches. Fantastic. So as long as I put this back together and that piece back on and we have 32 inches and everything is done correctly, everything should line back into place. Additionally, I went ahead and measured from this point here, okay, right here, I'll put a little arrow there, all right, where the upholstery kind of digs into it a little bit, and there's like a little clip for a panel. all the way to the same spot over there on the other side, and I got 44 degrees, or not 44 degrees, 44 inches. So there we go. As long as I meet that, I should be in a good spot. Now, I am concerned with other bracing. Let me show you. In a few moments, I'm going to go ahead and start removing some of these brackets and braces. And that's going to change the load structure in these areas. So I want to make sure that I have plenty of bracing. I already got that bar into place, so that'll definitely help with the structure moving in and out, okay? Now, I also want to make sure that I measure from this point here to this point up here, okay, where the two pieces kind of meet. So I have that measured out already. That number is marked over here. That's 12.5 inches from here to here, all righty? And then I want to make sure that nothing else moves, because in a few minutes, I'm going to start cutting. Let me show you how I'm going to start cutting. For all the panels that will be coming off, I'm going to cut it like this, okay? I'm going to be really careful to preserve any piece that I don't want to replace, like this piece right here. So I'm going to probably cut it right here, and then I'm going to cut along the seam here, not too high up, because remember, it's easier to pry metal apart when it's flat as opposed to being braced by a different structure. We learned that in another video, and I'll leave that link above for you. And of course, I'm going to cut here, and I'm going to cut and do the same on the top. But again, being careful not to cut the structure that, well, I don't want to have cut, okay? I'm going to do the same thing over in this spot right here. Okay, so this is all going to be cut here and removed. Same thing up here. Same thing with the pillar post here. Once I have that all cut and cut off, alrighty, I'll be able to go ahead and clean the areas up around here where I can see where the spot welds occurred. Some of them were quite obvious, some of them, well, not so obvious. And again, I don't want to dig too far into structure that I don't want to have replaced. Again, here I'm replacing this piece and this piece, so hey, we're good. But you know, over here, I want to be really, really careful specifically, right? So again, I'm going to be cutting and removing, doing a lot of cutting and removing. Now, for those who are working on their own e-bodies, let me show you something here. This is where the inner door frame, or this little area right here between the door jamb and the wheel well, okay, this is where the window goes itself. You can see that the metal is on the inside of the whole assembly structure. So again, to remove that, I'm going to go ahead and get my spot weld cutter and cut out what I can here. And hopefully I'll have the metal removed around here enough where I can go ahead and get under there with the air hammer, and boom, there we go. It should be relatively okay to do. And then I'm going to leave those holes in the panel here so I can use and plug weld them later, okay? Make sure everything is nice and flat, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. And then I'm going to kind of assemble everything kind of like a jig. So instead of just talking about it, let me go ahead and put this thing into time lapse, and let's get started with it. This is my rough test of the pieces. Now, I haven't ran the bar across, or that rear top bow brace, but everything else is fitting pretty good for a rough shade. You can see I got everything kind of clamped in, you know, following the rust lines and what have you. See, here's the rust line where I peeled some stuff off, and it's roughly fitting in there. Down here, you should see everything kind of fits in pretty nicely. Everywhere you see a little blue dot, I'm going to give it a little 5/16 punch and get these hammered down to fit exactly right. Now, again, these AMD pieces do need a little bit of massaging to get into place. But in my case here, I was able to get them in for the most part with just some clamps and such, right? Now over here, I got a little bit of work to do. I'd like to bring this panel down just a hair. This is the lower quarter out left-hand piece, right? And the reason being is I want to try to get this seam here aligned with this seam here, because when you look at the OEM cars, that's exactly what happens, right? All the outer pieces or the seams that you see follow really close with the inner panel. So I want to make sure that I replicate that as much as possible. Alrighty, up here you can see where it falls a little bit out of that. So I'll be able to massage this in. But roughly, again, this being a rough shape, it's pretty good. Before I do my final fit, I'll go ahead and stretch that and tweak it as needed. Up here, everything fit pretty good as well. And the measurements all worked out between the key points up here and the other points that I had measured out. So I know I'm in good shape. Now I'm gonna hold off on getting that rear bow brace installed until such time as I do the other side. As you know, and as you can see, I am doing things one piece at a time. Now, all that's left for me to do right now is I gotta do some prep here, right? I gotta descale underneath the pieces that were not previously done. So I'm gonna do my Osvo thing over there. And I've gotta hammer some metal back into place and what have you here and on the other side over here. You can see where things are kind of sticking out, poking out a little bit, you know. And that's part of the gig, you know, especially when you pull the panels out. So I gotta hammer those back in, getting this ready and really close where I can just get things plug welded. As you can see, when I drilled through, it made nice room for some plug welds. So boom, that takes care of that, a little bit of grinding, and that's awesome. Now, one last thing to show you. Up here, I'm gonna do this off screen, but I'm gonna go ahead and treat this panel. All right, you can still see the stamp numbers in here. And you do random checks and the metal seems to be pretty thick across the board. So all I need to do is finish pulling off this panel here, or this, you know, what was originally the outer panel, and get that all taken care of. You can see I'm using a combination of either drilling it out, or I could take the grinder and just grind out the little spot welds and then use the air hammer to pull those up. And I'll do the same thing up here. Just pry back a little bit when I see a spot, grind it, pry back a little bit when I see a spot, grind it. Especially when it's this crusty and it's hard to see. But once I get this descaled, wire wheel down and what have you, I'll be able to hit this with some rust encapsulator, and it should be really, really awesome here on the inside. And of course, I'm gonna do some panel prep. So the next thing you're gonna see on camera is going ahead and installing these for the final time, okay? So I'm gonna do the panel prep. I'm gonna do the new panel prep where I'm going through and drilling out all my holes that I need, etc., and getting it stripped down for welding and so on and so forth. You've already seen me do that multiple amount of times, so there's no reason to show that again for you guys. So I'm gonna get straight into the point with this. But yeah, looking from afar, that is going to be gorgeous and provide me enough support to last me years and years. I am really happy with the progress so far, and I hope you guys are too. So let's get to it. Real quick to showcase what I did to prep the panels. Again, nothing fancy here. I had my air punch and flange tool, my pneumatic one. This is an Onyx, and I'll leave the link in the description for you for this piece. It's a pretty handy tool, so you don't have to hand drill these out yourself, right? Just simply, well, I've shown it before you in the past. I'll leave a link. But basically, just gave it a couple of punches here and there, and spaced them out pretty evenly, etc. And then used some known points. And then on each end, that's going to be attached metal to metal, I went ahead and sprayed it with some zinc-based primer. Again, this is the weld-through primer. This one happens to be an 86% zinc. And then the inside just got a light coating of the Duraspray single-stage epoxy coating. This is something new from Eastwood, and it doesn't have a shelf life on it in the sense of once you crack it and shake it, you got to use it in 24 to 48 hours. This is really cool because you could just do little pieces at a time instead of having to worry about doing whole big pieces. Now, I could have left the inside of this with just the EDP coating, and that would have been fine, but I went ahead and took the extra step here. Now, if you can't get this, you could also use like a rust encapsulator or a standard spray to kind of keep that rust down. Over here, nothing fancy. I haven't done the label yet. If you want to, you can peel the label off, kind of like what I did. And then later on, I'm going to go ahead and use the surface conditioning tool to peel the label off. Over here, you don't have to run that weld through primer on the outside, but I do just because I don't know when it will be when I get this thing in epoxy coat. And you could just leave it just metal. However, you have to worry about rust, so on and so forth. So I just do that just because, you know, it just helps keep the rust down, etc. These guys didn't get it, but that's, you know, again, I'll get through it to it when I can, right? So there we go. Each panel gets treated like that. Well, there you saw it. Now, a couple of different things here. As you saw on the screen, I only did the one side on camera, but I have not done the other side just at that time. I got that finished yesterday. If you're thinking about planning on how all this will go, yes, if you have everything kind of sort of planned out, you can get this done, at least one side done, well, per day, okay? Depending on your schedule or what have you. The right side I did off screen and off camera. And I'm going to show that to you here in just a second. And it's important to note that when I didn't have the cameras rolling, didn't have the filming to do and all that good stuff, I was able to get all the panel prep, the cutting, and the welding, and most of the grinding done within a period of about, I'd say about 10 o'clock in the morning till about 7 o'clock. So roughly 10 to 7, about 9 hours. All righty. Now, if you had a spot welder, it might take a little bit less time. You know, you get the idea. So let's see how things turned out, and let me suggest some of the changes that I might do or you might want to consider when you do your project for this rear cage structure. Here we go. A couple of different points here. If you have a access to a spot welder, yeah, spot welder will be a whole lot easier than doing these plug welds. Now, everything turned out really, really nice here. You know, I went ahead and grounded these down, and I understand you don't need to do this because there's a whole skin that's going to be going up here, and it's going to be covered, and you won't see that from the back, you know, of the vehicle itself. You'll know they're there, and there you go, okay? And that's fine. I went ahead and did it just because I was like, let me just get some of it ground down just because, all righty? I do have a little spot to take care of there where it got a little crazy when trying to pull that other panel out, and I still have to weld that piece down as well. Now, I went ahead and waited to weld these top panels down on purpose, and I'm going to show you that here in just a few minutes. Again, that trend followed on the other side of the C-pillar cap post there, or post cap. And then I did not get these done just yet. I haven't decided if I want to go ahead and get the little pneumatic belt sander I picked up. Haven't decided if I want to use that on those three or just save the consumables and just keep on rolling. And then, of course, under here, got the weld treatment, etc. Over here, again, I didn't get those guys there in the middle simply because, hey, you know, it's going to be covered. I mean, the whole quarter panel skin goes right there. And of course, when I get to do the final cleaning in here and get this coated with the rust encapsulator, do it in epoxy primer, and then I'm going to Herculine it, it really won't matter, right? It's going to be all covered. And of course, here I have not installed that upper cap just yet. And there's a reason for that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Now, if you were doing this on your own and you had access to maybe like one of those small Harbor Freight spot welders, yes, you could have done that here. It's an easy point to get to here. And I think the points up here would have been a struggle, but you could have gotten to at least most of these points with that welder itself. You just have to prep accordingly. Now, the best way to prep for that, of course, is to leave exposed metal here, leave exposed metal on the other side, lightly douse it in the middle with epoxy, not epoxy, weld through primer. Make sure it's a super thin coat, though. If it's a thick coat, it ain't going to work. Pinch and weld, and boom, there you go. The reason I didn't go that route was, well, I just didn't go that route. I went ahead and did the plug welding and was confident I can get it pretty smooth as well, because this area will be slightly exposed. And I got a little bit of cleanup in there, a little bit of detail work that I could work on with that belt sander, etc. Alrighty. Now over here, alrighty, there is going to be, well, a little work that needs to be done. And I'm going to feature this on a different episode. So I haven't done this post yet, this side post, this side cap here. And this part needs a little bit of love. I got a little crazy with the grinder, but that part needed to be fixed anyways. I got a patch panel to make there. I got a small patch relief panel I'll probably make right there. And then up here is pretty gnarly. So I haven't decided if I want to make another patch and weld that in or try to use the existing. If I focus and show you over here, okay, you can kind of see where, hey, there's a part missing up in this area itself, right? And that isn't because of the hammer that I use, the air hammer and the air chisel. That's just because it had rotted away. So, yeah, there is a bit of love. Now, there was enough behind here where I could weld to, and I was confident in doing that. And as you see, I had that taken care of, okay? But I do want to clean this piece up, okay, and figure out what I can do to make it a little bit more structurally sound. And then, of course, I'll get that cap on there, and I'll feature that on a different episode. So when I was putting everything together, I was super uber meticulous on how things went and how things put together. And I was really careful on the measurements. And if you're doing your project, you want to do the same thing. You want to be meticulous. You want to be careful on how the measurements turn out so on and so forth. So I used a couple of different key points in my measurements. I already showed you that earlier. And then as I was cutting, I was like, maybe there's some better measuring points. And I'll show you that here in just a few minutes. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and the next scene that you're gonna see, I'm gonna take my lower bow brace, okay, and fit it across to see how we're doing. And if I had to guess, I'm pretty close here. So I'm gonna get that test fitted on. I'm gonna show you that in real life. I'm gonna show you that live. And well, I say live, I'm gonna show you that as I record it. And then, yeah, I'll go ahead and put it back into fast motion as I put that piece back on. And of course, we'll wrap up the episode. Again, I've already explained the difference between the E-body bow braces, specifically the rear bow braces where the windshield goes, okay? And just a quick recap, if you skip that part, the Challenger is a little bit more rounded, okay? And you can clearly see the radius is towards the end of the bow braces, and the E-body is a lot flatter, okay? And in fact, the bow brace itself looks different on the top piece and the bottom piece. So make sure when you order your kits, you get the right piece. Don't just look E-body, make sure you get the one specifically for your make and model. All right, so we got the Barracuda bow brace here, all righty. Now on this piece, there are clear marks where they left indentions from the factory. So it should be relatively, well, symmetric when I put this guy in, right? So I'm gonna place that right there, place that right there, line that up. Yo, that is dead on even. It doesn't get any better than that. And I know my voice is kind of froggy this morning, but if you can't tell, I am super uber excited. Now there's a couple of different measuring points that I use to make sure that we were good. So I'm gonna leave this in place, okay? In fact, I'm not even gonna clamp it. I'm just gonna leave it there because I think gravity will hold it in place for me. It sure will. And I'm gonna take a moment to go ahead and mark my pin where I wanna do my plug welds. I am gonna do 3 plug welds to hold the bow brace into place, okay? Now there's also a top bow brace that will provide additional support. So there's a lower and an upper, right? So this lower piece is only gonna be held in by 3 plug welds on each side. One being right here, the other one being here in the middle, and the other one being forward. Same thing here, one in the middle-ish, and then the other, all right? And I'll go ahead and use my plug flange tool to take care of that. Now, let me move the camera and show you the different measurements that I used here to make sure that everything was correct. Now, for the purpose of this shot, okay, I'm gonna leave both sides kind of exposed here, all right? One point I'm gonna measure is I'm gonna measure from where the, this brace right here, this inner brace, ends, okay? And I'm gonna measure to where that meets up here near the lower package tray. This is actually the package tray brace support where it comes down and completes the window channeling. I'm not gonna use the package tray itself because the package tray itself is slightly distorted on this ridge, but this guy is pretty consistent. So just a quick measurement from the edge. I'm gonna put that right up against the edge, and we have 18 and an eighth. 18 and an eighth to this little ridge right here. So from up there to there, 18 and an eighth. I'm gonna quickly move to this other side. And this is all within this shot, which I'm really happy about. Remove the air hose, because I'll be using that later on. And I got my welder in the way, but we'll just go ahead and do that real fast for you guys. Let me go ahead and turn it this way so I can see it. Spot on, 18 and an eighth. It doesn't get any better than that. Additionally, I used 2 points on the inside as well. Let me show you. Additionally, I used 2 points inside as well. And there's other measuring points you could do as well. You could do cross measuring, so on and so forth. But I think for, well, just the average everyday dude, this would be sufficient, right? So I'm gonna take my mark here, put it right up on that lip, move it down to where the tip is, right, of the chair bracket. And I have, well, 15 and a half. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. And sure enough, whoopsie, pushing down on it. Doesn't help if I push down on it. 15 and a half, all righty? So, yo, This is fantastic. I am confident now that I can go ahead and weld this guy into place, okay? And then complete my spot welds over here, get those clamped into place, and then go ahead and work that top piece in. So let me get that done in high speed, and then finally we'll take care of this inner bow brace. Well, things are looking pretty awesome here on the project. As you saw in the videos, I got the entire rear structure up, the rear cage or support structure, whatever you want to call it. And I even took this moment to go ahead and give it a nice shiny coat of rust encapsulator. It's actually a matte coat, but whatever. And things are looking pretty awesome. And I went ahead and did that because with the back, I wanted to make sure that the work that's been done over the last several weeks, well, didn't start rusting out and what have you. And it gave me one less thing to worry about as I was working on the rest of the car. Now that things are done with this basic cage structure, I still have a little bit of work to do. Alrighty, as you can see, that spot right there needs a little bit of love. And that's just gonna be a matter of taking off the residual metal that was left over and continue to grind and cut that out with the air hammer and chisel it out. Go ahead and give that a good coat of rust encapsulator like I did the back cage of the vehicle, and then go ahead and put that new panel on. Now the other side, as I mentioned before, the one sort of, there it is, way back there, right? There you go, right? Well, that part needs a little bit more love. So I'm gonna take some time to work on that and maybe capture that on video and share some things with you during the process. So those are gonna be some small things that I could take on between here and there. But the next big thing is to go ahead and take care, well, of that missing space right there in the middle. That's right. The next big part of Project Fast Fish, not the next episode, but the next big part is getting the rest of the floor in, getting it sealed up with the final epoxy coat, well, from that portion backwards, right? And getting ready for the next phases. Now, I still got some little odds and ends that I can do while I'm waiting for, well, the money to arrive, well, as I'm saving up, right? For the rear quarters and the rest of the parts I need, and the door skins and what have you. I can still work on the fenders. Fenders got some little holes and some patches that could use a little bit of love. I might capture that on video, I might not. Again, my work on that's a little iffy, so I want to have to see how it goes first, right? And then some little things here and there, maybe work on the seats, the differential, etc., right? Because the basic goal is to get this thing to the point where I could put the panels on and move it over to a rotisserie. And I'd like to be able to work on a rotisserie where I can get the little detail stuff like in the wheel wells, underneath the car, so on and so forth. Take care of that detail work to make sure that's ready to go before we go ahead and put on the suspension and let things start to settle. So yeah, still a long ways to go. And yeah, don't get me wrong, if I had the money and if I had the means and if the YouTube channel was making, really, really good money, I would love to go ahead and just keep working and hopefully have this on the road by summer. I don't see that happening because, quite frankly, the YouTube channel, although we've been in business and showing videos for about 2.5 to 3 years now, it's still not quite, well, we use the term paying off, right? So things grow slow, and that's all the nature of the beast. And there are other channels that are doing much better than we are, but hey, maybe it's just something I'm doing or what have you. But nonetheless, I'm not griping. I am very thankful. Why am I thankful? Well, I'm thankful because you guys choose to sit and watch this and watch the project with me, and you're following along with Project Fast Fish. Additionally, John has Project Slayton that he's working on, and I think he's going to do some work on that this weekend. And of course, we have some other things with Mike's Motorworks we can cover, and so on and so forth. So I look forward to seeing you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.